Alright, so I'm at my Creality K1 Max here. So I've been having an issue with this extruder here. It extrudes great, but the lock, like the clutch, is very sticky on it. It's actually working fine now that I have it disassembled. But I find that if I squeeze it together, that it gets impossible to switch. More, because it doesn't get used nearly as much. Alright, we are back in business. Super easy to move this now. Alright, so I'm at my Creality K1 Max here, and also applies to the K1. So I've been having an issue with this extruder here. It extrudes great, but the lock, like the clutch, is very sticky on it. To the point where I either need to use, sometimes, especially when it's hotter, either need to use pliers or whack it with a screwdriver handle or something to get it to disengage. A little easier to re-engage, but you can see here, if you can tell, because it's tricky to do this one hand. It's actually working fine now that I have it disassembled. But I find that if I squeeze it together, that it gets impossible to switch. And if I let it go, I can move it again. So something happened with this, where something must have got deformed, that if I squeeze it too tight, I can't switch it unless I use brute force. And I've just been dealing with that, not a big deal, except for I was just doing a print with a filament swap, and when I went to do the filament swap, that excessive force caused the belt to skip, so I lost my zero out, so that the second material was no longer aligned with the first material, making the print unsuccessful. And waste can ballast, just made that up, you can use it anyway. So I think what my solution is going to be is just make sure to have the screws not super tight. And so I'm going to try that, and I will let you know how that goes. And also, actually, that reminds me, on my K1 over here, you can see I have a rubber band on that one. It just occurred to me. And that one is too easy to move. Like, it'll disengage sometimes during a print. And so I have that rubber band super tight on there. And so I suspect that maybe those screws are coming loose on that one. And so maybe I tighten the screws up a little bit on that one, and make sure I don't over tighten the screws on this one. And so be careful with that. Check your clutch regarding the tightness of those screws, and that may be your issue if it's too hard or too easy to engage and or disengage the clutch. So I'm going to give that a try, and stay tuned, and we'll see how that goes. And let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts on this, if you had this issue and what you did, or what you think. And if you have any questions, and maybe throw it a like and potentially subscribe, maybe share with your like-minded friends, and we'll see how this goes. Stay tuned. Alright, so I put these screws back in, and I put them in very lightly tightened, and I still couldn't move it. And so I've loosened them a little bit, and now it's very crunchy, but I can move it at least. hard to secure it in one hand here. There you go, it moved. It is hard to move it though. There we go, if I do that. Man, that's hard to disengage. There it goes. So as hard as that is, it is a lot easier than when it was getting stuck before. Like I say, I'd have to whack it with a hammer or something. So I think what happens is there's a little metal piece in there that almost looks like a tiny socket head screw, but the hole for what would be the socket head looks way too small to fit any wrench. And so I'm not sure what the retainer is, but I think it's some sort of a ball detent type of deal that holds this switch at one side or the other, and it's probably just beat up, like it's chewed up, so the clutch is catching on it. And so I think that's likely the problem on this one. And so I'm going to probably see, I think I have a spare extruder or two, and so I'll probably just swap them in. And that should fix it, I suspect. I may try to take that little piece out, but while I have it apart, I might as well just replace the extruder. And maybe we'll see that little chewed up piece, so stay tuned. Yes, you can see here, this guy at the tip of my thumb appears to me to be, and you can almost see in there, to be like some sort of a ball detent at this, because this, look how easy this moves when it's not screwed together. And once I squeeze this, it's locked. I'm not squeezing it. It's super easy. If I squeeze this, locks right up. So that is obviously faulty, and I think if I take it further apart, it'll become obvious. Yeah, so here we go. So, as I say, this guy has got a ball detent, like a spring-loaded ball. So like, I don't know if you can see this, but I can push this in with my thumb. It's quite possible that if I just lubricate it, that it'll work a lot better. So I'm probably going to put a dab of, I don't know, olive oil or... No, you know what? I'm just going to rub it on the screw here, which should already have grease on it. There you go. How's this for a hack? I don't know if how much I got off of there. Maybe down low there'll be more because it doesn't get used nearly as much. Now, arguably, I may be chewing it up a little bit by doing that. But so now if I put this back together, I wonder if it'll work better. I could put more grease than that. Me and my elderly dog want to go in the house. He kind of barks funny because he's really old. Tough to say if that's smoother. It sure feels smoother, but tough to say because I didn't screw it back together yet. So I'm going to screw this back together and see how it goes. Yeah, so this seems a lot better. All I did is get a little grease from the lead screw and put it on the ball on the other side of this. So the ball is on the other side of this. And I also see this little hole. So theoretically, you could potentially get some lube in through that little hole without taking the these hardened gears off. The, what do they call these, hob gears? But it's only 2 screws, so it's not a big deal. They are hard to turn though, but it's only 2 screws, so you can take that out, pop this apart. It's just it was a little tricky to figure how to get this, which way this one goes back in. Not too tricky, just took a second to refigure it. And but yeah, so you could potentially lube that, but it does feel, you could lube it here, or you could take it apart and lube the other side, probably more effective. But it's definitely much better now. I'm squeezing it, and I can, with that little bit of force I can generate, just, it's so hard to put any force on it because I'm holding it in one hand here. You can see it move there. I'm squeezing it together, and I'm squeezing it together to brace it against something. So I'm squeezing it together, and I can switch it. I mean, I got to push pretty good, but it's way easier than it was before. Probably use a little more lube. It'll probably get hard to do it again, and maybe I'll add a little more lube, but that should be good for now. Alright, yeah, so this is so much better now. Because it probably gets a little worse when it gets hot, but it's just so much better now that I think it'll be fine. And I tightened those screws up like I normally would, so it wasn't even like I tried to loosen the screws. I want to show you one other thing. I've showed this before, but I like to put a little magnet on the hex key. Helps me to not lose these tiny screws that are just begging to get lost. Why is that not? Looks like it's not lined up. Haha. See, like I did that, and I didn't even do that on purpose. This is not going in all the way for some reason. The wire in the way. Get in there. What am I doing wrong? There it goes. And now it looks like it's in all the way. Let's see. I can do this. Alright. That guy. So much easier with that magnet on there. Especially when you're taking them out. It's even better because when you get it all the way out, you don't just drop it. Alright, now that it's started, I don't really need the magnet. Alright, we are back in business. Super easy to move this now. So now I wonder on the K1 if just those screws are loose, because obviously I can't unlube it. Well, actually, I could degrease the ball detent on that one, but no, that's not going to be the solution. But that's much better. I'm heating filament. Filament is heated. So now I can load my filament, and I'm good to go again, and I don't have to worry about messing up my zero out on a filament swap to ruin my print. So I'm going to try that calendar print again. That's what I was printing, and I was doing the second switch to black. So basically the board was done. So now I have I have a one-sided calendar anyway, so without magnets. So may get used for something, but I already have a one-sided calendar, so I don't really need that one. We'll see what I do. But anyway, stay tuned. We're going to reprint that and hopefully come out with something good, although I'm almost out of white filament, so we'll see how that's going to play out. I'm actually printing plain white PLA on the hyper PLA setting because I don't feel like redoing the G code because I have to modify the G code, blah blah blah. But with this high flow nozzle, I suspect that it will flow just fine, so we'll see what happens. One little bonus piece here for you. So this was the print that failed. Is that a Metallica song? Anyway, so what I wanted to show you, not the Metallica joke, was that on other prints similar, and unfortunately I don't have them here, but I noticed there was a spot like here that was rough, and it was like that on 2 in a row. And I looked and on the bed for either a bubble or a low spot, and all it was like almost like a fingerprint smear. And I said, oh, that's weird. And so I cleaned it with alcohol, and that went away. And then in the corners, now that I think about it, I wonder if that was more the case, that I just need to clean the corners more. Maybe when I clean it, I don't get the corners as much because it's just natural to not get the corners as much. But I shimmed the corners a little bit with little tiles. I'll show it. So you can see the little tile under there. And I only did it on 3 corners, and there, and back there. And that's just one layer, so that's 0.2 millimeters. I got a bunch of these from a couple of these failed same prints. And these are the calendar days, right? And so just using those as shims in the corners, and it really worked great. Like these corners, I was having a little roughness in the corners before, and now it's the corner. You can't feel it like I can, but these corners are all perfect. I only showed 3 of the corners, but yeah. So hopefully this thing comes out really good when it actually finally works. I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know in the comments.